We all wish that we had an infinite amount of money that we could just spend on our trains and buy everything right when we want it, but most of us, me included, have to make a budget and buy things when we can. Today I'm talking about that, plus answering a lot more of your questions. Hey everybody, my name's Jimmy. Welcome to Coffee and Trains. Today I am drinking some Green Mountain Coffee Roasters right here. If you want to tell me what kind of coffee you are drinking and put it in the comments below, you can have it featured just like these guys right here. Also, this is a Coffee and Trains Q&A that I do once a month. If you have a question that you would like me to try and answer, you can put that in the comments below as well for next month's Q&A. Cheers, guys. Starting right into this with David F9630, he asked, what the heck are boosters? Well, he's referring to DCC boosters, and what these are basically things that increase the amount of power that you have to your layout. A lot of systems, a lot of starter systems are right around that 2 amp mark, and some, especially HO scale layouts, may need more power, especially if you're running a lot of locomotives at once. So a lot of times you'll see boosters that go from 2 amps to 5 amps. Now, most of the systems that you have out there, whether it's Digitrax or NCE or MRC, those all have some sort of booster that you can buy, whether it's a more advanced system or it's just an add-on to the system. But it's basically something you put in between your DCC base station and your track that gives it more power. Ian Mason Blair 5065 says that he plans to make a sand mine and cement plant, and he's planning to use real play sand and cement dust. Is there any issues that you need to be concerned with? And he says that his layout's going to be standard DC. The big thing that you need to be concerned with is this going to get into your gears of your locomotive, and is it going to foul up anything? For this reason, you want to make sure that it is glued down really good. You basically want it just nice and solid, and to make sure that the glue gets in there, especially with the cement dust. Now, there are some other considerations because cement does involve a chemical reaction, so you may have to figure out how to glue it, so that may be an issue. But in terms of just using something like scenic cement or the white glue water mixture, just make sure you use something like wet water, which is water with a little bit of dish soap, or my preference, which is at least 70% isopropyl alcohol, so that the glue can seep in and get everything nice and glued down. You don't want any of that dust or sand getting into your gears because it can be a real headache with your locomotives. Got a couple of questions about the behind the scenes of my videos. Model Railway Backshop asks if I will do a video on not just affordable camera options, but all of the cameras that I use for my videos. It would be awesome to get another perspective of video equipment. Well, I will tell you that I use a Sony ZV-E10, or if you are in Canada or the UK, ZV-E10, and it is a great little camera. It works fantastically, and for the price, you get a lot of power out of it. And it has a lot of the features and equipment of some of their higher end cameras, so it's a really good deal. It could be a little expensive for some people, and it still may be out of reach for some people, but if you have the money and you're doing YouTube like this is a very affordable way to get a really good camera. I can do a video on this as well as other equipment. I am a professional videographer and video producer, so this could be something that I could definitely do a video on, but I'll have to figure out exactly when I can do that because I do like to keep my videos mostly focused on model trains. Similar question, SteelerFan820, he asked, what audio video equipment do you use for your channel? I just told you I use a Sony ZV-E10, and for audio I use a little Rode Video Mic Go, which is a really small mic. It's on a boom just out of frame. It's literally right here. I can tap it. And it is connected to a Rode Wireless Go, which is a very small little wireless system that goes to my camera. This allows me to have better sound with preamps and things like that. I know that's a lot of people's eyes were glazing over right there, but it overall helps with better sound. So that's what I use on my channel. CDRCB asks if I have a link to my 3D printed scenery and buildings. Well, I haven't really sold much in terms of my 3D printed buildings already made on my Etsy store. It's been really difficult just to find the time to get to print because it's a pretty labor-intensive process. So I've started selling digital versions of my models on Etsy, and if you're a patron at the $5 a month level, you get access to my full library of buildings, which I'm working on getting better organized and better labeled. But there's about over 30 buildings, I believe, and different things that you can print there in that library. You do have to be a patron, and you'll basically get a password every month to link you to that on my channel's website. So yes, I can give you a link. Just go to Patreon and become a patron, and also my website, DIYanddigitalRR.com. And I also sell some on Etsy as well. There's a link to my store in the description below. Quinn's Victorian Train 796 asks if I would ever consider getting anything Australian. Absolutely, I would consider getting something Australian. I've actually been thinking about buying some various international power and rolling stock, whether it's something as simple as getting Via Rail or Go Transit from Canada, or some various different Engage things from the UK, or like some Markland things, or just various things like that. And also, of course, there's a lot of like the Japanese, the bullet train, like those. And then Australian is really cool because it's got kind of an amalgam of a lot of different things. You see a lot of US power, you see a lot of UK roll power, and you got kind of this mesh and mix of it. So I find Australian railroads and their power and their rolling stock very intriguing because it's kind of a mesh of all sorts of various different Western railways. Phil Hampshire 3977 asks if I can program an address to a loco on the main line, or does it have to be on a programming track? Now, he has a DCS52 Digitrack system, and he's trying to add an address to a Bachmann loco. Well, I don't know specifically for that system, but I always typically recommend having a programming track, and it's not because you can't program on the main. I do all my programming in JMRI, and you can program on the main through that. But typically a reason that you want to use a programming track is that you don't want to accidentally program another locomotive that happens to be sitting on your main line. But yes, you can use the main line. I don't know the specific protocol for doing the Digitrack system. I may have to just start buying these DCC systems just so I can learn more with the different systems. But I would recommend using a programming track and hooking that up. You can do something as simple as splicing some alligator clips and just clipping some track temporarily, which is actually what I do for programming tracks. I don't have them set up permanently, but yes, you can program on the main line. I would probably try to do a programming track just in case, so that you don't accidentally program the wrong locomotive or program two locomotives to the same thing. Vicmore9120 says that he is somewhat new to my channel, but he hasn't seen a lot of my rolling stock weathered, or my engines weathered for that matter. Is that something that I prefer not to do? Well, I think for a while I preferred not to do it, and I'm still kind of hesitant on locomotives because once you do it, there's really no going back. But and also with rolling stock, but rolling stock is less expensive to replace than a locomotive. But I think I'm going to start getting into weathering. It's another thing that I want to start with, and doing various things like that. I'm probably going to start to get into that a little bit more, and plus buying things like Microtrain's pre-weathered cars as well. So gonna be starting to get into that. James Thomas 7724 says, what's the best way to power multiple Arduino Nanos for the multi-block signal system? Well, there's a couple ways that I would do it. I used to do it to where I would just get a power strip and attach it and get a bunch of 5 to 9 volt wall warts and have them all attached right there and just run them to the various ones. And then there are these little shields that you can get that you can plug the Nano in, that has the female DC barrel plug that you can plug right in, and that's a really easy way to do it. Another way you can do it is also to get some sort of power distribution block and just run a good size, say 9 volt, 2 amps, somewhere around there, 7.5, 7.9 volts, somewhere around there. Have that, and then just run the power to the connections of the Arduino. Cecil Hayden 585 says, let's say you're a retiree on a fixed income and you want to start an 8x4 layout. What purchasing steps would you take if you could only buy equipment, layout, track buildings, all that once a month? Well, the first thing I would do is get your track plan the way you want it, the best way you want it, so that you don't waste money with figuring out a different track plan. And then I would start off by getting the track and maybe a rolling stock set first. If you have absolutely nothing, definitely consider some sort of starter set. You may not want the track from the starter set, but this will get you going. And then you'll also want to consider what type of power system you want. With a 4x8 and HO scale, you definitely have the option of DC or DCC. It's pretty easy because a lot of times you're just perfectly happy with a single locomotive on there. So I would definitely start with the basics, the foundation, which is, your bench work or anything like that, and then also your track, and then get into your motive power and your rolling stock. And then I would start getting into the scenery, buildings, trees, things like that. That is the order that I would buy things. So if you're buying stuff once a month, which is actually something that I do, and I'm not on fixed income, but I would definitely start off with the basics of getting that foundation set, because you want to make sure that you have a good foundation and you focus on getting that so that you don't have to burn money down the road in fixing it. Then get into your scenery and things like that. If you have a question for me that you would like me to answer in next month's Q&A, you can leave that in the comments below and I will get to that. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, drink some coffee, and happy railroading.